Hello and a very good evening. You're watching the news tonight on Rajya Sabha television. Here are the headlines. Tamil Nadu Assembly Speaker disqualifies 18 rebel MLAs supporting sacked AIADMK leader TTV Dinakaran. Decision comes 2 days before the Madras High Court's deadline for floor test by Chief Minister E. Palaniswamy government. BJP National President Amit Shah appears as a witness in the Naroda riot case of 2002, backs the alibi of accused former Gujarat Minister Maya Kodnani. Nation bids adieu to Marshal of the Indian Air Force Arjan Singh with a gun salute and a fly-past. Hero of the 1965 war against Pakistan cremated in New Delhi. And US tells North Korea that it will be destroyed if it refuses to end its nuclear and ballistic missile drive. Warning comes ahead of the US President Donald Trump's address to the UN General Assembly on Tuesday. Well, Tamil Nadu Assembly Speaker P. Dhanpal today disqualified 18 dissident MLAs loyal to the sacked AIADMK Deputy General Secretary TTV Dinakaran. The dissident MLAs were disqualified under the anti-defection rules. The Dinakaran camp called the move a murder of democracy.
Tamil Nadu Assembly Speaker P. Dhanpal on Monday disqualified 18 rebel MLAs who are supporting sacked AIADMK leader TTV Dinakaran. These MLAs were disqualified on the grounds that they had switched their party. The Speaker's decision comes 2 days before the Madras High Court's deadline for a floor test by the Chief Minister E. Palaniswamy government. The 18 MLAs had revolted last month against the Palaniswamy government, saying they had lost confidence in the Chief Minister.
Whatever the things we face it, that is a different issue. Only the thing is, suppose if one doing mischief means, so the action should be taken. What the provisions made in the Constitution, according to the Constitution, that being provided in the article, within that only Speaker acted it, no intention.
Dubbing the move as a murder of democracy, the Dinakaran camp challenged the Speaker's decision. The opposition DMK also criticized the Speaker for disqualifying the MLAs.
We have not acted against our party or not voted against our party inside the floor. The whip cannot control me for my every movement, but they are doing it wantonly. They are killing us. That's all. They are trying to kill the democracy of this country. Let them try and do it. Court is there.
It is undemocratic. Speaker attitude is undemocratic one. It is political. That's all.
The suspension of the rebels effectively reduces the strength of the assembly, which means that if the trust vote is held, the Palaniswamy government needs only 110 MLAs to prove its majority. Earlier this month, both Shashikala and Dinakaran were removed as party chief and deputy, respectively, at an AIADMK General Council meet. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television.
Well, BJP President Amit Shah told a special SIT court on Monday that former Gujarat Minister Maya Kodnani was present in the assembly on the morning of the Naroda riot on February 28, 2002. He appeared before the Ahmedabad court as a defense witness for Kodnani, who has been charged with murder and rioting in the case. The BJP President also told the court that he met Kodnani at the Sola Civil Hospital that morning. The court had last Tuesday summoned Shah in response to an application filed by Kodnani. The court had allowed Kodnani's plea to summon Shah and some others as witnesses in her defense in April this year. Kodnani has already been convicted and sentenced to life imprisonment in connection with a separate case of rioting. Kodnani was a state minister for women and child development in the then BJP government in Gujarat led by Narendra Modi.
अमित भाई ने आज अपनी गवाही में बताया कि सुबह जब वो गृह के अंदर गए थे वहां पर मायाबेन उपस्थित थे और उसके बाद वो 9:30 पौने 10 बजे के बाद सोला हॉस्पिटल पहुंचे। वहां पर मायाबेन और डॉक्टर जयदीप भाई भी उपस्थित थे और उस दौरान बाद में वहां धक्का मुक्की होने के बाद उनको पुलिस ने कॉर्डन करके अपनी जीप में बिठा दिया था और वो वहां से चले गए थे।
प्रोसिक्यूशन की तरफ से उनकी क्रॉस एग्जामिनेशन की, उस क्रॉस एग्जामिनेशन में उन्होंने कहा कि उन्होंने ग्रहण शुरू होने के टाइम पे देखा था, और दूसरी बार जब वो वहाँ से वापस निकल रहे थे, जो उन्होंने टाइम बताया 11 से 11:30 के आसपास का, उस समय पे ही माया बहन को देखा। और इस बीच में माया बहन कहाँ थी ये अमित शाह को नहीं मालूम है। तो आज अमित शाह की इस जुबानी से ये साबित हो रहा है कि जो हमारे पीड़ित पिछले 15 साल से ये कह रहे हैं कि माया बहन दंगों के समय नरोड़ा गांव में थी, उस बात को पुष्टि मिलती है।
Well, the government filed an affidavit in the Supreme Court on Monday on the issue of deportation of Rohingya Muslims from India, maintaining its stand that the presence of Rohingyas in the country posed threats to national security. The centre cited intelligence inputs that suggested the links of some Rohingya immigrants with Pakistan-based terror groups.
Deporting Rohingya Muslims is an executive policy decision, and the Supreme Court should desist from interfering in the matter. The centre said this in an affidavit filed in the Apex Court on Monday, emphasizing that the refugees from Myanmar are a very serious and potential threat to national security. The government document said many of the Rohingyas have links with the ISI, the Islamic State terror group, and other extremist groups, found serious national security ramifications.
In that affidavit, they have mainly said that this is a purely executive matter to be decided by the government, and that the court has no business to interfere in such matters of what they call illegal immigrants or illegal migrants, and therefore they say that the court should not entertain this petition.
The written submission also states that the fundamental right to reside and settle in any part of the country is available to citizens only, and illegal refugees cannot invoke the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court to enforce the right. The centre says since India is not a signatory to the Convention relating to the status of refugees 1951, the obligations concerned to non-refoulement is not applicable. Taking note of the centre's reply, the court has adjourned the hearing in the matter to the 3rd of October.
अब जो भी फैसला होना है वो कोर्ट के द्वारा फैसला होना है। मैं समझता हूं कि हम सबको कोर्ट के फैसले की प्रतीक्षा करनी चाहिए।
Minister of State for Home Kiran Rijiju also appealed to activists and human rights groups to not malign India's image.
समिति आयोग जो भी है, इन लोग से मैं रिक्वेस्ट करना चाहता हूं कि आप खामखा भारत को और भारत सरकार के खिलाफ ऐसे गलत बातें ना फैलाएं, क्योंकि ये भारत का एक सॉवरेन हमारा ड्यूटी है, हमारा एक दायित्व है जो भारत का सुरक्षा को देखते हुए, भारत एक राष्ट्र है, इस राष्ट्र का सुरक्षा, इस राष्ट्र का भविष्य को देखते हुए कार्रवाई उठाएंगे।
Meanwhile, in Bangladesh, Rohingya refugees are facing a humanitarian disaster due to lack of food, shelter and water. Heavy rains in the last 2 days have made matters worse for the thousands of refugees living in makeshift camps.
Well, you know, there's now an estimated 409,000 people who've come across in the last 3 weeks. It's essential that we move ahead as quickly as we possibly can with the government's plan to allocate an area between Balokali and Kudapalang makeshift settlements, existing settlements. And I think all the agencies, all the international agencies, need to move very, very quickly to get these people out of a very vulnerable situation.
Bangladesh authorities have also restricted the Rohingya refugees from leaving the border areas, citing security issues. More than 4 lakh Muslim Rohingyas have crossed over to Bangladesh from Myanmar following the latest flare-up in violence on the 25th of August. With inputs from Ravindra Shoran, Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, the stock market surged to new highs on Monday. The National Stock Exchange benchmark index Nifty hit a record high of 10,171, surpassing its August high of 10,137 before closing at 10,153.1. The Sensex closed at 32,423, up 151 points or 0.47%. During the day, it also touched a high of 32,508.06, its highest closing since August 2nd. The rally in stock markets has been due to gains in banking, capital goods and auto stocks after unabated buying by domestic institutional investors. Revival of buying by FPIs who had been major sellers for a long spell on the Indian bosses too accelerated pace to some extent. Well, Finance Minister Arun Jaitley said on Monday that people switched from cash to digital payments out of compulsion rather than convenience after demonetization. He also exuded confidence that digital payment will pick up momentum with the more advanced technology coming into the market.
Finance Minister Arun Jaitley asserted on Monday that increase in volume of digital transactions, widening of tax space and squeezed circulation of high-denomination currency notes were the real measures of success of demonetization. He also said that people embraced digitization for payments only after compulsion, resulting from demonetization, created a habit for many.
In terms of sheer volumes of the cash that the Reserve Bank prints, are we able to squeeze over a period of time? As we stand today already, the high denominational currency has squeezed.
The Finance Minister also said that there will be an uptick in digitization in the next few months as the government has unleashed a slew of measures.
Starting from the 8th of November, with the announcement of demonetization, the process of remonetization was on, and the need to replace cash transactions with digital transactions, the debate was at the peak.
The Finance Minister also launched Google's mobile wallet and payments app, Days, specifically designed for India. The app is free of charge and is now available for download on both Android and iOS. Kriti Mishra, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, another big news today, Marshal of the Indian Air Force Arjun Singh was laid to rest in New Delhi on Monday. He was accorded a full state funeral with several leaders paying tributes to him. President Ramnath Kovind, Vice President Venkaiah Naidu and Prime Minister Narendra Modi led the nation in paying tributes to Marshal of the Indian Air Force Arjun Singh.
A 17-gun salute, flypast of Sukhoi 30 fighters and the national flag being flown at half-mast at all government buildings. The funeral of Arjun Singh, Marshal of the Indian Air Force and legendary fighter pilot, took place on Monday in New Delhi with full state honours. Marshal Arjun Singh's body, wrapped in the national flag, was taken from his home to the Delhi cantonment in a gun carriage decorated with flowers. A journey of 8 kilometres, complete with an Air Force band and a tri-services contingent at the funeral site. All three service chiefs paid their respects to Marshal Arjun Singh. Defence Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, senior BJP leader L.K. Advani and former Army Chief General Dalbir Singh also paid floral tributes.
He's a great man but never acted great. That was the beauty of him. He was very humble. He, at times, I used to always listen to what he said because he had a lot of wisdom. He always treated the world fairly. I think he was destined for greatness because he had it from an early age but didn't really show it. So he was a philanthropist, away his own land at a time, and nobody did that sort of thing. So I'm extremely proud of him and his career, and he was also fairly fearless and courageous.
The way the Air Force took over, it just showed how well loved, admired and respected he always was, he is. So, I mean, one looks back at a life so well lived, and I say, yes, it is a loss. I would have really loved to have seen Bhaji Uncle reach the age of 100, but he was very well loved and respected in his lifetime.
The entire nation, including President Ramnath Kovind and Prime Minister Narendra Modi, mourned the passing away of a legend. The Prime Minister said that Arjun Singh's determined focus on capacity building added great strength to our defence capabilities. West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee also condoled the demise of Arjun Singh in a tweet. BJP President Amit Shah paid respects to Arjun Singh in a post on Twitter. He expressed his deepest condolences to Arjun Singh's family and friends.
He was one of the greatest sons of India as far as the armed forces is concerned. 64, 65, he did something that the world was totally surprised and stunned. In each and every job that was entrusted to him, he excelled. He stood out as a leader, as a gentleman, as an officer, and a great motivator. He was a doer, a man of few words. His contribution to the Indian nation, even during insurgency in Punjab, was something which is commendable.
He was an all-rounder. He was a man, kind-hearted man. He had a philanthropic idea. He sold his personal asset to create a trust to look after the men of the Air Force. That's his other softness side as a human being.
The 98-year-old military legend Arjun Singh, also known as the hero of the 1965 India-Pakistan War, was the only Air Force officer to be promoted to 5-star rank. He was conferred the rank of the Marshal of the Indian Air Force in the year 2002. Arjun Singh died of a cardiac arrest on Saturday.
Well, indeed, a great loss to the nation, but the only Marshal of the Indian Air Force will be fondly remembered forever. Well, moving on, now the Haryana government on Monday took administrative control of the Orion International School as it reopened 10 days after a 7-year-old student was found dead with his throat slit inside the school. The conductor of the school bus has been arrested for the murder and the probe has been handed over to the Central Bureau of Investigation. Attendance was low on the first day after the school reopened, with only 3 to 4 students present in each class. Deputy Commissioner Vinay Pratap Singh has taken charge as administrator of the school for 3 months. Meanwhile, the Supreme Court has directed members of the District Bar Association of Gurgaon not to obstruct the proceedings going on before the special judge. The Apex Court was informed by the bar body that they have withdrawn their earlier resolution in which they had said that no lawyer will represent any of the accused in the case. Well, the gruesome murder of a Class 2 student in a Delhi NCR region has brought into focus the safety of school children across the country. It was one of the issues that figured in the interaction that President M. Venkaiah Naidu had with some students on Sunday during his 2-day visit to Hyderabad.
A few young guests called on Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu on Sunday. Among them were Class 7 student Rafiq from Telangana's Adilabad and Class 8 student Kavita from Andhra Pradesh's Nellore district.
మా క్లాస్ రూమ్లకి కిటికీలు లేవు. అవి వర్షం వచ్చినప్పుడు వర్షం పడింది జల్లు పడి స్కూల్ అంతా తడిసిపోయి బుక్స్ తడిసిపోతున్నాయి. అందువల్ల సారు అందరినీ ఒకే దగ్గర కూర్చోబెట్టి పాటలు పాడేస్తున్నారు. పాటలు చెప్పట్లేదు. ఇంకా ప్రహరీ గోడ లేదు మాకు. ఆ ప్రహరీ గోడ లేనందువల్ల బడి వదిలేసిన తర్వాత రాత్రిపూట ఆవులు గేదెలు వచ్చి ఆడ పేడేసిపోతున్నాయి. అవి మేము చిమ్ముకోలేకపోతున్నాము. మాకు చిమ్మేమ కూడా లేదు.
हम उनसे हमारे स्कूल के बारे में बोले. हमारा स्कूल में एक वाटर टैंक है. उसमें बारिश गिरे जब और बारिश का पानी उसमें गिरता, वो बच्चे पी के ज़्यादा दिन नहीं आते स्कूल को, इसलिए बीमार हो जाते.
In the wake of the gruesome murder of Pradyumna Thakur, a Class 2 student of Ryan School in Gurugram earlier this month, the Supreme Court has said it will examine the safety norms for private school students across the country. Sharing the concern of the delegation over the issue, the Vice President said their safety is a priority for the country and for the government.
Currently, we know that around 39% of the country are children. So it's important that they have an important role to play in crafting their future. And any government has the responsibility to protect and ensure that their rights are realized.
The Vice President also underscored the need for the government and the civil society to work together to ensure children's safety. He also appreciated the efforts of school committees in working with district administrations to ensure this. Krishnanand Tripaঠি's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, let's now get you a roundup of some other news from across the country and nationwide. On the third anniversary of the Clean India campaign, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has written to opinion makers to seek their support for Swachhata Hi Seva movement. In personalized letters, he invited them to lend support to the movement and dedicate time for the cause of a Swachh Bharat. The Swachh Bharat Abhiyan aims to make India a cleaner place by emphasizing sanitation and health while changing age-old attitudes towards hygiene. The Appointments Committee of the Cabinet named senior IPS officer YC Modi, to head the National Investigation Agency. Modi, a 1984 batch IPS officer of the Assam Meghalaya cadre, was part of the Supreme Court appointed special investigation team that probed the 2002 Gujarat riot cases. Modi will hold the post till his superannuation on the 31st of May 2021. He will take over from Sharad Kumar after the latter completes his tenure on the 30th of October. 10 persons drowned when 4 boats capsized in the Sabon River during a severe storm in Assam's Golpara district. About 50 people in 4 small boats were returning home after witnessing a local boat race when their boats capsized during the storm. According to sources, bodies of 10 persons, including 2 women and 6 minors, were recovered. Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath today took oath as a member of the State Legislative Council. 2 Deputy Chief Minister Keshav Prasad Maurya and Dinesh Sharma were also administered the oath at a function at the Tilak Hall in Lucknow. All of them had to get elected to either the Assembly or the Legislative Council before September 19th in order to continue as ministers. The Haryana police today released a list of 43 people wanted for violence after the conviction of Dera Sacha Sauda chief Gurmeet Singh. Gurmeet Singh's adopted daughter Hanipreet and Dera's spokesperson Aditya Insan topped the list. Hanipreet has been missing since the day the Dera chief was sent to the Rohtak jail. It's time for a short break now, but news and updates will continue on the other side. Stay tuned, we'll be right back.
The splendid, grand and massive neo-Buddhist copper dome of the Rashtrapati Bhavan. It gets its influence from stupa at Sanchi. The dome is more than twice the height of the rest of the building. The reinforced concrete shell of the outer dome began to be formed during the beginning of 1929. The last stone of the dome was laid on April 6, 1929.
Welcome back. You're watching Rajya Sabha television. External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj held talks with foreign ministers of US and Japan in New York today. The 3 leaders exchanged views on the issues of maritime security, connectivity and nuclear proliferation. They also underscored the need to ensure freedom of navigation, respect for international law and peaceful resolution of disputes. Condemning the recent nuclear tests by North Korea, the 3 leaders agreed that its proliferation links must be explored. Sushma Swaraj will also hold separate meetings with leaders of countries like Netherlands, Latvia, Bolivia and Bhutan on the issue. Swaraj is slated to address the UN General Assembly on Saturday. External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj also took part in a meeting called by US President Donald Trump to discuss reforms in the United Nations. Making his inaugural speech among the representatives of 128 nations, Trump said that the UN lacked efficiency and is not living up to its full potential. Reiterating his call for reform, Trump said that the institution must be made more result-oriented in terms of development, management, peace and security. The 128 member nations, including India, have all signed a memorandum for reform in United Nations.
We seek a United Nations that regains the trust of the people around the world. In order to achieve this, the United Nations must hold every level of management accountable, protect whistleblowers, and focus on results rather than on process. to honor the people of our nations. We must ensure that no one and no member state shoulders a disproportionate share of the burden.
In some more international news now, hours after warning North Korea that it will be destroyed if it refuses to end its reckless nuclear and ballistic missiles drive, the US flew a pair of B-1B bombers and 4 F-35 fighter jets over the Korean peninsula in a show of force against North Korea. In bombing drills with South Korea, the US bombers flew over from Guam and the fighters flew from Japan, joined by 4 South Korea's F-15K fighter jets. A total of 10 bombs were also dropped onto targets on a shooting range in Gangwon province, according to South Korea's Air Force. The military drill came after Pyongyang fired another mid-range ballistic missile over Japan on Friday, days after conducting its 6th and most powerful nuclear test on September 3rd. Staying on with international news now, in a major step to end a long-running feud with the Palestinian government, Palestinian Islamist group Hamas has agreed to dissolve its administration in Gaza. It also agreed to hold general elections in Gaza and pledged to accept key conditions of the government to end a decades-old political and territorial split. The decision, which comes after a decade of political rivalry between the government and Hamas, was mediated by neighboring Egypt. The organization has also expressed its willingness to accept Egypt's offer for talks with Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas's Fatah to implement the Cairo agreement that lays down guidelines for reconciliation. Hamas has been ruling the controversial Gaza Strip since 2007 after fighting a civil war with the government.
حماس اتخذت قرار جريء وجدي ووطني بحل اللجنة الإدارية، لكن كيف الآن تتعامل حركة فتح ورئيس السلطة محمود عباس مع هذا الطرح ومع هذا الجهد المصري؟ نعتقد أن أبو مازن وفتح أمام اختبار جديد في التعاطي مع الجهد المصري.
أيضا نحن نرحب به لأننا لا نريد أن يبقى بالفعل لأي عربي أو لأي جهة دولية أن تشير بالبنان إلى أننا العقبة في طريق.
Here's a roundup of some other international news in Global Buzz. Ousted Pakistani Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif's wife won the crucial Lahore by-poll. And ailing Kulsum Sharif, who is recuperating in a London hospital following cancer treatment, won the seat by beating her nearest rival by over 13,000 votes. The parliamentary seat is considered to be the stronghold of the Sharif family. It fell vacant after Nawaz Sharif was disqualified from office in the Panama Papers case in July. A powerful typhoon ripped into southern Japan, dumping torrential rain, halting train services and affecting tourism. Power has been cut off in the Kagoshima, Kumamoto and Miyakaze prefectures, affecting more than 3,000 households. 800 flights were cancelled in Kyushu and Shikoku Islands due to the adverse weather, affecting many tourists and travellers. 4 people are missing and 17 are injured. Already devastated by Hurricane Irma, the Caribbean islands are in the eye of yet another storm. Storm Maria was upgraded from a tropical storm into a Category 1 hurricane on Sunday, about 201 kilometers east-northeast of Barbados. The hurricane is forecast to rapidly strengthen over the next 2 days and could affect parts of the Caribbean over the next few days, bringing dangerous wind, storm surge and rainfall hazards. Well, that's it on this newscast. Good night.